all of us started somewhere. Howard, tell us how did you start fishing, and what was your first fly rod?
Oh, law. From a small kid, 7 or 8 years old, I've always had a interest in fishing and an excitement about it. And I guess the first fish we ever caught was a neighbor of ours had a summer cabin up on Ware Branch on Chickamauga Lake. And I was invited up to spend a few days with them. And the willow fly hatch happened to be on. And so we'd be down on the dock and watching the fish swim around and come up and eat the willow flies. And we didn't have any fishing rods or anything, but scratched around and came up with a string and a hook. And we'd put willow flies on the hook and hand line catching the little bluegills. And I guess that was the most exciting part of getting started. And then as we got a little older and the parents got a little more involved in fishing, was introduced to a fly rod and got to where we could sling it around and caught a few fish. And then that grew. We were finally, somebody in the group had a boat, and we'd get out and fish for the bluegill under the willow fly hatches. And I'm not sure exactly when I got my first fly rod, but it's probably 12, 13 years old, 14 maybe. And it was I'm sure it was an old South Bend. But what I remember most about it, it had one of those Fluger wind-up automatic reels on it when you push the lever.
I remember those things.
So, at any rate, used that for a long time. Again, at that point, we were just fishing for bluegill on the lake there. And then as we grew up and wanted to do a little bit more, thinking in terms of trout, happened to coincide with the introduction of the open face spinning reel. And so we sort of went to open face spinning reels when we started trout fishing and stayed with that for quite a while, on up through, getting out of school and home from the Army, and was still fishing with spinning rods. And really at that point, I pretty much quit fishing for quite a while. And was brought back into it by some of my hunting buddies, wanted to go to the Bahamas bone fishing, and they invited me to go on the trip. And so I went and was actually borrowing a fly rod from them, but it came back pretty quick as far as handling the rod was concerned, and we caught a few fish and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then a couple of years later, they got up a trip to Alaska and invited me to go. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do a trip to Alaska for the big trout and so forth, I better get me a fly rodder. And so I did. And today, I wish I'd spent the money on casting lessons as opposed to those high-end sage rods that I bought. That was another intermediate step to moving on up. And then we got involved through invitation, or actually my children gave me a trip to the Watauga River with a friend of theirs they'd gone to school with. And so happened that trip coincided with the cicada hatch up there several years ago. And so we were exposed to some unbelievable fishing and really enjoyed that. And my fishing during the summers, because I was hunting all winter, was not heavy, but sporadic. And we got introduced into fly fishing the tailwaters through that, and it's sort of continued to grow through the years, and very, very much enjoyable.
You went bone fishing. You remember what year that was?
Probably about 1980, somewhere along in there.
And then you said that you hunted. What did you hunt?
Well, I was a bird hunter, quail and doves primarily.
So hand in hand with fly fishing.
Yeah.
Very much hand in hand with fly fishing.
But I really was much more involved hunting at that time in my life than I was interested in fishing. And I realized that if I got into fishing heavily and was gone as much during the summer as I was during the winter hunting, that I wouldn't have much of a family life left. So I sort of, fishing took a back seat to the hunting for a number of years.
So your first several trips that you took were freaking awesome, dude.
I sort of started out at the top.
Well, let me go ahead and kick this thing off. Carter, this one's for you, buddy. From the banks of the Elk River, just over the hill from the Jack Daniel Distillery, it's the Southeastern Fly podcast. Thanks for stopping by for this episode. Feel free to share with your friends and your fishing partners. Hit the like and click the follow. Sign up for the newsletter and get a jump on upcoming events that are coming up and episodes that are going to come down the pipe. It's available in the show notes where you're listening right now. So who is our guest on this episode about pulling on oars? He's a Tennessee native. I've known him since I was 20 years old. He was once a client. Now he's a guide. And he's definitely been a friend of mine, and he's a friend to everybody that he meets. And I can back that up with several people that would agree with me on that, Howard. So please welcome to Southeastern Fly, Howard Brooks. Howard.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
I've been looking forward to this, and just a backstory, a couple things. So we've been trying to get this done we've been talking about it for well over a month, and we had planned it for the 1st of January, around the 1st or middle of January, and the big ice storm came, and then we had some other things go on, and last night I looked at the weather, and I was like, okay, it's not going to be big. It looks like it's going to be great, just cold, and it is very cold. But I woke up this morning and we had about a dusting, but these big snowflakes were coming, and they were probably about the size of this water bottle cap right here, Dasani water bottle cap, coming down and starting to cover the road. And I thought, I'm going. I don't care. I've got four-wheel drive. If I had to drive down there in four-wheel drive all the way, I'm doing it. But we're on the banks of the Elk River, like I said, just over the hill from the Jack Daniel Distillery. And we're at Blake and Emily's at riversedgetennessee.com. We're at their cabins. We're in cabin B. And I'm looking right now at the Elk River. It's flowing by. They just turned the generation off about 2 hours and a half ago, so it's starting to slow down. I'm expecting to see some fish rising pretty quick. But Howard and I, like I said, we've known each other. Howard and my father did business together back in the 80s, probably when you were first starting that bonefish run down there in Alaska. And then for 20-something years, so we've known each other well more than 20 years. But heck yeah, we've known each other 30 years.
We've been fishing 20 years.
Yeah, we've been fishing 20 years. What am I talking about? Anyway, a long period of time went by, and we didn't. I moved to Murfreesboro, moved around, then ended up in Murfreesboro, and then we finally got back together here on the banks of the Elk River. Actually, now that I say that, I didn't put those two together really until just then, and fished and had a couple great days, and ever since then, he's been a real true friend of mine, somebody that I look up to, not only in the fishing life, but we've talked about life. We're talking about life in general. Somebody that has been there, done that, and you're easy to ask the questions to on things that I have questions about, and always give me well thought out answers, and I appreciate that. But we've guided together for several years. I can't recall the number of years, so I'm just going to say several years we've been guiding together. But we've kind of talked about this, but what in the world got you into guiding is what I want to know.
Purely by accident. I used to enjoy fishing a private water place over in North Georgia that were owned by some good friends of mine. Any rate, was over there, and I had come to the decision to change my career path. I'd been farming, and I got to the point that I wasn't able to do that anymore. So I happened to comment to Abby that I wasn't going to be putting a crop in this year. And she said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm looking for a job. And she said, well, do you want a guide? I said, well, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I'm not talking about on the regular schedule, but I always need extras and so forth. So I said, well, yeah, if you think I can do it, I'll be happy to help you. So at any rate, I did guide with her wade fishing for a couple of years and enjoyed that very much, and always had liked to take my grandkids fishing. And I would get with David or other guides and take one of them. And in my wisdom, I said, if I had a boat, I could take two. And so as it worked out, I did get a boat and was, pretty regular on the river, take with the grandkids or friends or whatnot, and would run into David, and he asked me one time if I'd help him with a two-boat trip. Of course, this was in the days you didn't have to have guides licenses and so forth. And so I did that one day, and it worked out pretty good. And then David called me one night. I was supposed to be doing another two-boat trip with him the next day, and he said, I've got a problem. He said, I'm not going to be able to go tomorrow. I need you to take the trip. And I've got another buddy that's going to be the second boat. So I reluctantly agreed, and that worked out okay. And so from that point on, David referred a lot of trips to me. And that's really what put me into the guiding business. And it's been a wonderful thing. I remember another guide friend of mine asking me when I told him I bought a boat. His first remark was, he said, "Well, you ready to stop fishing?"
Exactly.
And I said, "No, not really." He said, "Well, get ready because it changes." And I wondered about that for a while, but I think he's 100% wrong. I think the big kick I get out of guiding is although I'm not holding the rod, I'm fishing every minute. And, to be able to do that and help somebody else in their efforts to be aware enough of what's going on to help them when, you call a strike or whatnot. It just is very fulfilling, very gratifying to me.
Totally agree with that viewpoint. I remember the night that I called you and said, I'm not going to be able to do it. I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Fairly sick. And when you own your own business, it's crazy. That seems to come first. You've got, okay, I got to get this done and then I can move on to whatever the issue is. But I think I had been in the hospital. I think I was there for several days, and it wasn't the first night, but it was like this, not the night, but the day after, I think, is whenever I finally got my wits about me and said, oh crap, I've got a trip tomorrow. And so, yeah, I called Howard, and Howard was gracious. And so he downplays the fact that he took that whole trip over and ran it like his. That's the part that you downplayed.
Well, I had to downplay it because I didn't know what I was doing. I just faked it on through.
I fished with those folks, I guess a couple of years ago, and I didn't know who they were. They knew me, but I didn't know them. And finally we started talking, and they said, you couldn't do the trip. And I'm like, I think I could do every trip if I had you on the books. And then I thought, oh, that was that October trip. And they said, yeah, yeah. They were extremely complimentary to Howard. But so I'm going to back up just a second. The first time that you and I fished together, so we were right here, as I said, on the banks of the Elk River. We got off the gravel bar up there. The boat was there. You came down, and you lied to me the very first time that we met. So this is something that you got to watch. I mean, I know he's a fisherman, but it was a lie. And I called him out later on down the river, probably after about an hour of fishing. But I said, so, do you trying to get the feel for, all right, where are we in your fishing? Or do we have to go nymphing? It was during the cicada hatch. Can we start throwing dries right away? Do you want to throw streamers, whatever? And I'm not all that great, and I'm not all that good, and I get to fish every once in a while. And I looked at his tackle, and he had, nice stuff, sage and loop and all that stuff and all the good stuff. And I thought, okay, this may be a long day, but I already knew you, so I knew it'd be a great conversation. But about an hour into the trip, he's throwing nice loops, and we're off the nymphs pretty quick. And, if I remember, we were about a mile and a half downstream, so about half a mile from where we're sitting today. And he threw up against the right bank up there. Oh, there's some grass. There's like a grass bank there. A little bit of grass hangs down into the water. And he threw a cicada there, and a little brown came up. It wasn't big. It was probably 14 inches. Not a huge fish. And he set the hook, and I was like, all right, you've been lying to me this whole time. I know that I didn't know how good you could pay attention and fish. So as you listen to this, make sure that whenever you hear Howard try to downplay something, that he's probably a little better than what he lets on. So just...
Well, you can fool some of the people half the time and all the people some of the time, but I've got him buffaloed.
I'll lie to my friends, you lie to yours, but let's don't lie to each other. How's that? Oh, so rivers change over time, Howard. I've noticed in this river, it changes. Every year it changes, and I know you've noticed the same thing. Banks erode, gravel bars move around.
Trees fall down.
Trees fall down right in front of you. There's a lot of stuff going on. They become dislodged, and one tree may be up the river one year and down past the takeout the next year. So it changes, but I want to go way back in time before the dam was built, Tim's Ford Dam, before it was built. Do you remember any of that, of what the river was like before the dam was built?
Yes, I do. I had the good fortune of going to a summer camp in Tracy City, Tennessee. And part of their program was to do a 3-day canoe trip down the Elk River. And as I did that as a camper, 10 or 11 years old, and then a few years later came back as a counselor, and it sort of became my job was to take the canoe trips. So I saw the river while it was warm water river before the dam, and it was very much like the Squatchy River, some of the other streams that we used to wade for red eye and smallmouth. The part that we floated was what really is now the lake. So I can't compare directly, spot for spot. But, the one thing I do remember most is there was a girls' camp
Of course.
that we came by, and that was always a highlight of the trip. But from what I remember of it, size-wise, water-wise, is very similar to what it is now, today, below the dam. I was gone during the period that the dam was built. And when I got home, I kept hearing about, they had stocked trout below Tim's Ford Dam. And wanted to go and wanted to check it out. And kept trying to find a guide service, fly shop somebody in Chattanooga that could accommodate me and bring me over here and show me what was going on. And they'd say they'd do it, and then never heard back from them and whatnot. So one day I just Googled guides for the Elk River, and David's name came up. And so I called him, and he had no idea who I was, nor he. And any rate, through a conversation, we made the connection that David referred to earlier, and I came over and met him, and we fished and happened to hit it on a wonderful day. And from, there on, it was just been regular for a number of years. I brought my grandkids, brought friends, brought whatnot, and have always been and still am very, very partial to the elk.
Yeah, definitely. So you said that you were gone. Where'd you go?
Well, I won a very prestigious, all-expense-paid trip from Uncle Sam to Southeast Asia for a couple of years.
Okay, gotcha. So you're probably glad to see this place.
Yes.
I already knew where you were, but people need to get a full story on that too sometime. What's the name of the book? 5th in May or something like that?
5 days in May.
5 days in May. If you want to read an interesting book, you should go read that or download it and listen to it. It's you might see Howard's name in there. Let's just put it that way. I won't stop here right just for a second, though. I want to talk about Blake and Emily that own at River's Edge, Tennessee. What a great group of cabins right here. Like I said, I can see the river right over there, right from where I'm sitting at the table, where we're recording this. These are absolutely the cleanest cabins you will ever stay in, period, bar none. I've stayed in cabins all over the place. I mean, from the Rockies to anywhere along Southern Appalachians, and these are the cleanest ones you're going to come across. It's right on the elk. There's 4 of them here. I don't know. Did you saw? I know you saw the barn when we came in, or when you came in, but they've got a wedding venue up there even. That's a big barn, and it's got a great venue outside with a huge fireplace and lights. And this place is done up well, and it's almost like it's hidden down here. All of it's hidden down here by the river. And until you get out and come down here, it's a gated, so you have to have the gate code and all that. But just wonderful people here. Blake and Emily both take such good care of it. If you're coming down toward Lynchburg, Middle Tennessee, you really should go to @riversedgetennessee.com. That's @riversedgetn.com. There's wadeable fishing access down there. They're 2 miles from the dam, from the bottom of Tim's Ford Dam. They're 10 minutes from the distillery, from Jack Daniel Distillery over there. Lots of food around here. There's Miss Mary Bobo's. There's Barrel House Barbecue. There's High Point up on the top of Mont Eagle, which is not too far away. There's Philo's and Winchester's. The other day, I came down through here with some new guests, clients that were fishing. It was a father-son, and we saw 2 eagles that kept moving downstream with us. They moved right straight down the river, right in front of where I'm sitting, and they landed in a tree that's just to the left of where I'm looking. The bald eagle kept on going, but the younger one stopped here in a tree, and if anyone was sitting out here on the steps, they could have seen it. It was really cool. And they followed us right on by, or tried to stay in front of us right on by. Finally, when we got down to the old lunch spot, they kind of veered off, and I just assumed they went back to whatever they were doing. But what a great place to stay. And I've stayed here before, and it's comfortable. It's quiet. You're on the river, like I said. So I want to thank Blake and Emily for letting us come in and do this podcast, kind of make it just a little more special for me and hopefully for Howard to do this. That's so you can look them up at riversedgetn.com.
I'll just have to verify everything David said. I think it's anything, it's understatement on his part. It's a wonderful, wonderful place.
So let's get back to the questions and the conversation here, Howard. A lot of guides, I think, kind of start at some point in their life, I know I've got a lot of friends that are much younger than I am, that went out west to guide, and that was their summer job. And now some of them are living out there. Some of them are just going back out for the summer to guide out west. And they come from all kinds of backgrounds. It's amazing some of the backgrounds that some of these kids come from, and been in school for years and decide, you know what, I don't want to do that. I want to go guide, which to me is kind of crazy. But then you look at their life and you're like, okay, you've got a cool life going. Just don't stop what you're doing. Don't get backed into a corner that it's, golden handcuffs can't get you out of. And they guide for various reasons. So at age 83, why are you still rowing a boat?
I wish there was a sensible answer that I could give you to that question. Oh, I guess it comes down to the fact that I enjoy it. And, through this is actually my third career. And I've been guiding for about a little over 10 years, I guess, now. And during that period, I have met the most wonderful people. I've thoroughly enjoyed every trip I've made. I've made some lifelong friends with the people I've contacted through my guiding. And I wish I could give you any rationale for enjoying spending a 14, 15-hour day by the time I drive 2 hours from Dayton, Tennessee to get here and fish all day long and drive 2 hours back home and row the whole time during the day. Doesn't make any economic sense. Doesn't make any, have to be within my head to understand how there's any enjoyment out of it. But it's something draws me to it. It's different every trip. There's no, always something different happening, always seeing something different along the river. It's just never boring. And it's just a wonderful way to spend a day. And I physically can't do as much today as what I used to do. But as much as I stand, as much as I can stand, I want to keep doing it as long as I can.
Definitely, you are a role model for folks that I talk to of, wow, he's still rowing a boat at 80, and I hope I'm doing that. And I said, well, you're going to have to stay active. You're going to have to enjoy what you're doing if you're going to still be doing something at 80, because it's be very easy if you don't have something to just kind of sit down and start watching TV and heck, almost never get up. So I agree. And you said it was something different every day. And I don't know the number of times that you and I have talked about, man, we had a great day today. And you come back the next day or 2 days later, and it's a barrel full of sea monkeys out there. There ain't a fish to be seen, or you catch 50 one day and 2 the next or something like that. And I scratch my head on those days. I scratch my head whenever they're, practically jumping in the net, probably more now than what I do whenever they're not, where we're having a slow day out there. Why are they eating so well today?
I used to really worry a lot about that, and I finally have quit. I've just accepted the fact that it's in Mother Nature's control, and there's nothing I can do to affect it either way. So just come and accept whatever I get and enjoy it.
There you go. And that's hard for some people to do. Very hard. A friend of mine and yours, Greg, and I were fishing on the Caney, and we had boated a big fish, and a really nice big fish too, something that anybody would be proud of. And these 2 guys passed in another boat, and I just said, hey, how y'all doing? And they, they made comment about all the fish they were catching and how big they were. And Greg said, well, why didn't you tell them about your fish? And I said, well, I don't know. They probably didn't want to hear it. And he said, you're awful, you act so disappointed that they might have caught more fish than you. And I said, I want to catch more and bigger fish than everybody in the river. I'm slowly turning to the point where it's not quite as big a deal. But I want people, whoever it is, to have a good time in the boat, and that's one of the measures. That's only one of them. The number or the size or both is one measure of a good float trip to most people. To some people, it's to see the eagles the other day. That was a measure that some folks that were on the trip added to it, because I think they were the ones, but I can't remember for sure. But are we going to see any eagles here? Was one of their questions, and then cue the eagle. Here he comes. Okay, so
Well, it's not just the wildlife. We see mink, we see otters, we see beavers and muskrats and coons, deer. But I get as much pleasure out of the wildflowers and the different trees. Not just this river, but most any river you're on, it's in abundance, and I really appreciate that. It's you're always seeing something you hadn't seen before.
Oh, absolutely. Kingfisher actually just flew by just before you said that, just about eye level from here. So totally, I agree. One of the things that people measure to be a good trip is what they eat. For sure. And we like to eat on this show. I know that that's a big deal for me and a lot of folks. I figured out that there are different aspects to that as far as what people expect when they eat. But I'm gonna bypass the people that just eat a granola bar and drink water while they fish all day, and they fish really hard. And they're really after it. As far as riverside lunches go, what do you think makes the best riverside lunch?
They're all good if you get it suited to the people that are going to be eating it. And as a guide, I've always tried to get a feel for what their preferences might be, what allergies they might have that I need to be concerned about. Certainly, if you're taking a woman or women on the trip, they're going to want a different menu than what a bunch of men do. So, trying to with that information, match up what might meet those preferences and desires. I've found that the delis at the supermarkets can pretty much fill whatever needs I've got for a very good lunch. We normally do deli type sandwiches with some potato salad and pickles, and then fried pie or something for dessert. Another option is rather than the sandwiches, get the fried chicken strips, those type things, with potato salad or coleslaw or whatnot that are readily available and pretty dang good from these delis, and have been very pleased with that. Of course, there's situations that come up that the people are really looking for a very pleasant noonday meal, more so or as much so as the fishing. And I happen to have some friends that have made a annual affair out of shore lunches that I think have been very pleasing. We've had everything from ribeye steaks to Louisiana gumbo to bread pudding, and all of those things can be done with minimal effort, with a little planning and a little preparation ahead of time, to where you just have to warm something up. But with the little propane stoves and so forth that are available this day and time, it's not a great big deal to pull something like that off. I know a lot of guides, their standard fare is half a Subway sandwich and a bag of potato chips. Others, I've got several guide friends that their deal is grilled tenderloin by pork tenderloin, slice up, Polish sausage, cucumber salad kind of thing that are very, very good. And, I always have something dessert, homemade brownies or piece of pie or something. But it can be changed up and be very pleasing. Be very pleasing and very enjoyable, particularly if you have a nice day and can sit out, put some chairs out on the bank and relax and enjoy it for a while.
To me, if you got chairs out on the bank, you slow that day down just a little bit more, and watch the river pass by. People get a chance to absorb what you've done throughout the morning, especially if you've got somebody that's relatively new or brand new even. They can kind of in their mind go back through all the stuff, the instruction that you've tried to give and that they've tried to absorb under live fire, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where you can sit down and start really thinking about it. I think that's a good time to do that at lunchtime and maybe, ask any questions that you've maybe asked before but couldn't retain. Because there's a lot of stuff coming at you.
I think you're exactly right. And another aspect of it is I see it in my wife when she's fishing with me. She can only stare at that bobber for so long, and then she has to have a distraction. And that lunch break is a very good distraction and a relaxation as opposed to the pressure and tension that she develops with a guy fussing at her for missing a strike, But it's certainly very enjoyable to get an opportunity to just soak it all in.
What do you think about tomatoes?
I don't like tomatoes.
The reason why I asked is because when we were fishing together, I'd try to make a good shore lunch, and every time I would think, oh, tomato, that'd be awesome. Because the main reason I thought that was because I don't cook anything. I don't bring anything that I don't like. I mean, that's not, if it's, if somebody said, I want spinach, probably have to go fish with somebody else. I ain't fixing no spinach or Brussels sprouts either. So anyway, I used to bring them, oh man, this is going to be good. We'll have a tomato, and I'd cut it up and whatever we're eating. You want some tomato? Every time he'd be, I don't like tomato. I'd be like, dang gummit, I forgot. So getting to know the folks, it finally got into me, but got it in through my thick head. But
well, wait just a minute before you leave that. I thought of something while you were going through that. The first time I fished with David was, I think, the first time that I ever had planked salmon grilled and served me for lunch. So he does a pretty fancy job from time to time.
When I do it, I try to do it, as good as I can. But yeah, so the first time that you fish, so the backstory, give you a little quick backstory. I'll try not to veer too far. I get a call from Howard. Like I said, we met up here. What he had done was he had booked a trip for 2 weeks away. And then he called later the week that he booked those 2 weeks away and said, hey, I'm going to be down in the area Saturday. Can we do the trip then? I said, yeah, absolutely. We'll do it then. I'm open. No problem. So we had a couple things happen that day. One, it was an outstanding day. Everything was pretty much on dry flies, on cicadas, so they were big eats. But the second thing was you said that you had to be in Swanee for a wedding at like 3:00 or some ungodly quick time. At that time, I don't think I'd ever gotten off the water before dark. And I was like, oh crap, that's going to speed things up. And I don't think you made it to the wedding exactly on time. We might have got you there a little late, but before you left, we were back up at the truck, and putting your stuff away. And I said, so you want me to go ahead and just, I guess, cancel this trip in 2 weeks? He said, oh, no, I'll be back. So one question that we have that everybody has an answer to this question, Howard. Everybody's answer is just a little bit different. They tailor it just a little bit differently. But tell us your one that got away story. I want to know about it.
Can I change that up just a little bit and tell you about the one that didn't get away?
Yeah, we could. It's your episode. We can do whatever you want to.
At a juncture in my fishing life, I got into some offshore deep sea fishing, and was invited to a marlin tournament out of Morehead City, North Carolina. And it was billed as Ban the Billfish. It was a fundraiser for Ducks Unlimited, and I was involved with Ducks Unlimited at that time. And so I went and participated in that tournament, and it was a pretty big tournament. I've forgotten now how many boats, but quite a few boats, and the entry fees were significant to me at that time. And the second year I fished in that tournament, I caught a 738-pound blue marlin. And all the fish were supposed to be tagged and released. It was for a conservation effort to track the fish. But if you were, like for the big fish category prize, you had to bring the fish in, had to kill the fish. And we did that. $16,000 first prize money. So at that juncture in my life, I didn't feel too bad about killing the fish. But I think killing that fish set the whole tone for my future in fishing. I know that I have not knowingly or willingly killed a fish since then. I'm sure there have been a few die from foul hooks and whatnot, but at any rate, I really became a firm believer in catch and release. It just made so much sense to me. And it was really, along with a few other factors, the force that took me away from hunting and into fishing. When you're hunting and you pull that trigger and you pick up the bird, you can't go back there and let the dogs play with him again.
No, there's no catch and release in hunting, is there?
No. So I really focused on that and, became a great believer in it. I just have reservations about the put and take mindset as far as managing particularly trout waters. It goes the same for hunting. I don't hold that in very high esteem. It's just not the way I want to do it. But by catch and release, we let the fish have a chance to grow, to get bigger. They become more wild. They're a little harder to catch, but they fight stronger. It's just a much more gratifying approach to fishing as far as I'm concerned. It's just what's your intention as far as your management goals are concerned. And I'm afraid that too often the people that are setting the regulations and so forth have to try to please too many masters. And there's no way that you're going to have everybody pleased all the time. So if it's working for them, I guess that's what they'll go on and do. But I really think that the tailwaters in Tennessee, we could see a much more attractive trout fishing situation than what we've got today. And I'm not trying to get into any political aspects of the thing, or that's strictly just my opinion. Full well recognizing that somebody's got just as much right to put a kayak in this water and float down through there as I have to put a drift boat in and fish. So, it's just some way or other, the resource is getting saturated. There's too many people wanting to enjoy too many different things. And we've got to get into perspective that there's room for everybody, but it's got to be some considerations along the way to make anybody happy.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the political aspect of it either, but I think you're right that there probably is room for most everybody. I take out a small group of people that are just a pain in the rear end, but most of the people that I meet, I would say 90% is probably a low guesstimation, are people that want to do the right thing, want to respect not only the resource but everybody else using it. There's that 10% of turds that are in every punch bowl. That's kind of those are the people I'm thinking of that that kind of ruin it for everybody else with trash and killing everything they catch and all that stuff. So,
well, I think it's the people that fish from a selfish point of view, that they think they have the right to be there and they have the right to do it, and they do. But it might be legal, but it's not ethical. And wherever that gray area, whatever definition you can bring out of that, but just a consideration for everybody out there makes it a whole lot more enjoyable.
agree. You got any wisdom for the younger generation that you want to pass on? I know you do. I don't even know why that's even a question. I should say, give us some wisdom. Throw some wisdom on us.
Oh, I'm short on wisdom.
I go back to my earlier comment.
Well, I think that one of the shortcomings that young people today have that was common to us at a young age is that we had a big opportunity to get out, to enjoy the outdoors, to learn about the outdoors, and enjoy the outdoors. And I think too many people today don't realize the opportunity that they have to learn about nature and to appreciate the wonders that the good Lord has placed on this earth, and that we should make ourselves aware of and enjoy and enrich ourselves by. So all that to say that I love to see kids get out today. I love to see them, whatever, whether it's fishing or whether it's hiking or whatever, kayaking or whatever, endeavor gets them out away from the television set and the computer is very beneficial to them. And I would encourage any kid today to avail themselves to any opportunity to take advantage of those wonders that do exist out there and learn about them and appreciate them and come to understand how they fit into the big picture.
Kids in England don't have the opportunities that kids in the States have. In England, somebody else owns the water, somebody else owns the land. You don't get to play unless you know somebody or pay somebody. And then it's not the same as I can go up to the top of Mount Eagle and get on a hiking trail and go hike. I can go out to over to the Smokies and get out and hike and spend the night and fish anytime I want to, or head out to Yosemite and see what an awesome park that is. See all the rocks and the trees and the animals and all that. Here, there's so much opportunity that maybe sometimes that just gets overlooked. But I think screen time is a big thing for younger folks and myself. I mean, I don't know how many times my bride has said, "You're still looking at that phone." And well, you're right. Or you're on the computer again, writing something or fixing something or answering something back, or you're texting somebody. And I think that the river is what is able to make me unfold myself and say, okay, I'm back to some kind of real reality, not what a computer screen or a phone or is trying to perceive as real reality. I mean, this out here is way more real than a lot of stuff that you see throughout the day.
It's a growing experience. You never get there. I think my fishing career has been a continuous learning experience. And about the time I think I'm getting pretty smart, then something happens, I realize I don't know anything, and I've got to take it another step, and that's part of the enjoyment of it. But through the years, my desires, my expectations, my attitudes, they've all changed. And I told me years ago something that I feel is very pertinent to me as a fisherman, and that it's there's 3 stages in every fisherman's life. When you first start fishing, you're excited about it and you want to catch a lot of fish. And so you go and by whatever means, to catch that number of fish. And then that begins to refine itself. Well, I don't want to use worms anymore. I want to use a nymph, or I want to use another bait, artificial bait of some kind. And then you take that another step, and you're catching fish on a little number 20 dry fly, and then it gets to the point after you begin to satisfy that numbers aspect of it that, it'd be more exciting if I caught big fish. And so you restructure your efforts, and you are fishing different waters. You're fishing different kind of baits. You're fishing heavier tackle. You're fishing a lot of things, and you become obsessed with that big fish. And that's great. I mean, that's wonderful. I've caught a lot of big fish and enjoyed every one of them. But, I finally got to the point in that regard that you go out there and throw a heavy rod with a big old streamer on it that's sort of like casting a wet sock. And, it gets to the point, you might do that all day long for 1 or 2 fish. And it's just, as you get older and your joints get a little stiffer, it comes to the point that the pleasure's not worth the pain. So, and then the third stage I finally am blessed to have moved into is, anymore I just want to catch fish the way I want to catch them. And if floating down the river, throwing nymphs under an indicator is giving me some action and a little excitement, I'm perfectly content. And content to just accept whatever the river wants to give me that day. And if it's a big fish, great. And if the numbers are real high, great. But if I don't catch a big fish and the numbers are off, I've still got the enjoyment of having spent the day on the water, communed with nature, enjoyed the company of good friends, and that's what keeps me coming back.
There's a lot to be said for being content with something, anything, actually.
Well, I think so, too.
I think that comes later in life for most of us. But I can think of a few things where I've been like, I'm content with this, maybe where I am, just I'm enjoying everything. So I think you're absolutely right on that. That's the place to try to get to. And it's going to be different for all of us. There's no doubt about that.
No question.
Yeah.
And I have been working on it a few more years than most people.
Oh, so as we've been talking, I've been thinking, you had a business when we first met in Chattanooga. Then you were a farmer. Now you're a fishing guide. Do you think that if the teacher would have had asked you back whenever you were in grade school that what are you going to be when you grow up, you would have said a fishing guide?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Well, what do you say we close this thing out?
I've enjoyed it very much, and appreciate the opportunity to spend the time with you and commemorate and commiserate and and sort of get primed for opportunities to do it again soon.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us on this episode. Feel free to share it with your friends and your fishing partners. Hit the like, click the follow buttons, sign up for the newsletter, and get a jump on upcoming events. The newsletter is available wherever you listen to this. It's in the show notes right now. When you get a chance, give us a positive review wherever you're listening to this one. So who is our guest today on Pulling on Oars? He's a Tennessee native. I've known him since I was 20 years old. He was once a client. Now he's a guide. He's definitely, I count him as a friend. And so does everyone that meets him. Howard, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
You just listened to Howard Brooks, Pulling on Oars on Southeastern Fly. See you next time.